Hello, welcome back to the videos. This is video number 3 in that series about pentatonic scales, and we have established where the pentatonic patterns are across the 3 major chord shapes, the F, the D, and the bar. And then we looked at finding melody with them in the last video, but now I want to touch on adding, I guess we'll call this color tones. Instead of thinking, oh yeah, this is cool, I can use, like, let's say for example, I Saw the Light in the key of G. I can play just the melody using any of the shapes as long as I stay in the right octave. I can find the notes for I Saw the Light in the shapes. I have to shift to the next G. Okay, so there's a basic outline of the melody, and then you can use the notes in those G chords for flavoring or for roll purposes. But what happens here is, if you notice, if you play that song at all, you play in jams. I didn't play any other chords except G chord positions, and I was finding the melody in and around those G chords. But if you play I Saw the Light, then you know the song goes G, then C, a 4 chord, then back to G, or G, and then eventually you're going to switch to a quick D here at the end. I saw the light, then back to G. So there's a little bit of a disconnect between what I did as the solo player playing the melody and just using G pentatonic notes and G chord notes for coloring versus what the rhythm players did. The rhythm players switched to C at the appropriate time, back to G, then went to D at the right time, then back to G again, and that's the whole song basically. Verses and chorus are all the same. So then you might have a situation arise where you think, okay, why should I even worry about the other chords? Since I'm a lead player, can't I just play the melody? And then here C comes up. I wouldn't let my dear Savior in. I didn't even have to go to C. Why would I want to go to C? Am I required to? No. But you'll notice that every one of your solos gets real vanilla sounding because you only have G chord tones for flavoring. Which means if you're going to come up with a Scruggs break, or I don't care what kind of break, Don Reno break, a pinch, a strum break, whatever you want to call it, if you're just using G pentatonic to find the melody and then using the same leftover notes as flavoring around the melody, everything sounds whitewashed. It all sounds like G. And without the people in the jam, or if you play in a band, without the guys in the band providing rhythm for you, there's no context over which the melody should be played. In other words, there's no indication to the listener where anything changes. The melody just kind of becomes disjointed. Just melody like that on an instrument without chords is really blah. So the listeners need context. They need to know what part of the melody is being played over what chord in the key that you're playing in. So G, C, G, D, back to G is the canvas on which we're going to paint the melody. It's always a good idea at some point to realize, hey, I can also find the same melody notes that I found before but use different coloring tones. So in this video, let's talk about how you would use the chords from the progression to play color tones, I call it. So when everybody switches to G, from G to C, it would be during this section. Wandered so aimless, life filled with sin. Right here, where I'm staying in this template, I wouldn't let my dear Savior. That's actually where the rhythm section would go. I wouldn't let my dear Savior. That's where they'll actually switch to C. So if you wanted to kind of sound like you're coherent with what they're doing, that you've also changed to C, then you can adopt this. You could switch to the G chord and watch this. I mean the C, I'm sorry. Switch to the C major, which is nearby. And now I'm flavoring or coloring the melody notes that I found with a C chord. Now, have I switched to the key of C, or am I using C pentatonic for this? There's a little correlation to C pentatonic and G. They share some notes, but I'm really thinking this song's in the key of G, so I still need, those are the notes that I need to play over the C chord. I'm just moving them. See, there's that same note, that's an A note. I've moved it here. That note is really convenient to this F shape. And yes, it is relevant to C pentatonic, but I don't have to think, ooh, I've switched to a C chord, so I must play C pentatonic. It doesn't always work that way. You're still in the key of G, so G pentatonic still works, and you can color those notes with these notes now. Instead of this, which is all here, I can rearrange my fingers into a C major chord so that when they switch to C, I will also switch to C. But now I can flavor my break. And you hear immediately when I do this how your brain wants to hear chords. It needs context. So I'm going to play the melody now. This part will be played over the G chord. Wander so aimless, life filled with sin. Okay, that we know that's over G. But now instead of staying here and playing these notes and flavoring it with more G, I'm going to switch to C, and then all the notes that I'm going to add in and around the melody and the rolls and pinches and things to flavor it are all coming from C major, which is in the progression in the key of G. So it's one of your naturally occurring chords. Now here's the next line, which is in G. Then it jumps up an octave. Praise the Lord, I saw the word the is the only melody note you would play over the D major chord. The, which is this note. The, which is an A note again. I'm going to use the bar chord. The light. Now let me see if I can string this together, and now I'm going to switch to, I'm going to use this for the G section that's appropriate. When everybody else in the jam or in the band goes to C, I'm going to flavor that part of the solo with C major chord tones, back to G. Then I'll go to this bar chord G because it's up a little higher in pitch, which crosses over into the next octave. And then when that D chord comes up, I know there's only one note, that note, that applies to the D. I'll use this one. And what you'll hear me doing is playing the melody notes that we've already found, but flavoring them with the chords that everybody else is using for rhythm. So you have a juxtaposition between melody and rhythm. They both work together. Now, instead of this D, since this was the melody note that you play over the D chord, I could have used this D. Here comes the D. Right here, which is contained in this F shape. Now, that not only delivers you out of the doldrums of just being G, 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 everything filler-wise being related to G. Now again, this is legal. You could just play G chord tones as filler around the melody, let everybody else in the jam or the band play C and D. But like I said, it just gets to be real plain. It becomes unassociated with the rhythm of the song. And you'll notice that most really good Strokes players, after a while, abandon staying in one spot too long. Even though you could stay here as long as you thought you'd get by with it and play the melody notes here and here, it just sounds better sometimes to join in with everybody else and say, hey, you guys went to C, I'm going to go to C too, but I'm going to keep playing the same melody. So I'm just moving the notes to a new location, which it happens to be a C chord, and to a D chord. And what's powerful about this also is that it allows you to move around the neck and come up with solos, providing your own filler. If I played this as a solo piece on the banjo, just me and the banjo, I would definitely want to wrap chord tones around the melody so it doesn't sound like Schroeder on the piano on the Peanuts cartoons, you know, blinking out one note at a time. I want to make it sound full and exciting and full of chord tones, so people, it sounds like maybe 2 or 3 banjos playing at the same time. So even if I'm not jamming or playing in a band, I would probably not play I Saw the Light with just G chord tones as filler. I would move around the neck. So let me try a few passes at playing the solo in different places, and you'll see me switching to D and G and C in different places where the melody shifts over that chord to provide my own filler. I didn't have many rolls going on there, but I was just trying to illustrate without doing too many complicated rolls or even many Scruggs licks, that even if you just combine the notes of the chords, G, then C when the melody moves over that, D when it moves over that, you can literally move around the neck and find, not only the pentatonic notes that are melody, but you can find chord tones, color tones I'll call them, to allow you to flavor your break in the same way that the rhythm players are flavoring your break with the chords in the song. So try that. Try using the pentatonic scale notes just to find the bare melody, and then instead of staying in one place and pretending that everybody else is providing the chords for you, you change chords with them. But remember, in your head you have to remember this melody is still based in the key of G or whatever the key is you're playing in. So all the other notes I'm putting around it from the other chords are just for flavoring. The melody notes should stay the same regardless of where you go on the neck, because it's G pentatonic you're working out of. So try that, and maybe the next video we'll look at minor pentatonic scales and what they'll do for you for playing minor key stuff, obviously, and also for blues, which is a pretty important application. So we'll see you in that video. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.